We're live right now. Red Zen Tea just hooked us up with her famous matcha lattes. Hey, thanks, honey. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're in the studio. We've been dealing with a bunch of random stuff. I can't touch anything. We're talking about feedback here. Does it sound a little echoey? I don't know. But anyways, as you can see, welcome to a new episode, Real Estate First Tech Unleashed. Subscribe to the notification bell. If you're new here, we interview individuals that are in the real estate industry. Lenders, real estate professionals, you got technology providers, and also coaches that are utilizing technology to have more success in the real estate business. And I know some people are like, I don't like technology or want to adapt to that. But technology, we all need to use technology. And wouldn't you say that's right, Bryce? I mean, at the end of the day, we have Bryce with us. The giant lender, is that correct?
The lending giant.
The lending giant. I want to make sure we get that correct. I was just off air. I was like, man, I need bigger chairs. I think you're the biggest guest we've had in our in-person studio. Welcome, bro.
Thanks, brother, man. Now, like an offensive lineman, so I take up a lot of space.
Did you ever play?
A little bit.
I
picked up golf when I was like 14.
Okay.
That's pretty much what I've done for the most part. But no, man, I'm excited. Appreciate you having me on. I know I've listened to a few episodes, just listening to some of the people that are on here.
Let's go.
Mindset and the coaching and conversation. And I love the unleashed part where it's just be who you are, share what you got.
Yes.
Because I think this space,
we're keeping it real here.
Needs it more than ever.
Speaking of unleashed, man, I mean, yeah, we just rebranded to we changed the complete name, and after the studio and getting all the branding and all the things, it's like, all right, do we want to do all that, or let's just unleashed? And so this episode started off getting a matcha latte. You never know what's going to happen. Working on this mixture board here. Let's. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm getting laughed at right now because technology, right? So we're going to do some troubleshooting. The goal here is, you can't see this behind the scenes, but there's actually a setup back there, so we can have someone that can mix all this.
Yep.
But it was interesting. I was doing my research, as I think we all do now, right? Go online, do some research, look at some content, find out who the person is before you go to their house, meet them for coffee, whatever. And I saw Concord, California. I was like, what? Like, I went to school and I was born in Pittsburgh, went to school in Pleasanton, California, dancing around Concord. And I lived for a year in Walnut Creek when I met my wife on Instagram. And then now we're here in Arizona. And so are you. And you said your mom's from Concord.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Santa Cruz, California.
Okay.
And then 2015, I was kind of up in Concord, just working and stuff like that. And then 2018, moved up there permanently. Actually, after I went through a divorce, so I went through there, moved in, and kind of started back into the real estate space. And
nice.
My fiance and I now 23 days away from tying the knot.
Let's go.
Love you, babe.
Shout out.
We lived about 2 years in Walnut Creek, and so she grew up in Oakland. I grew up in Santa Cruz, so like the whole East Bay. Yeah, that's our hood.
Love it, man. We actually were just at the Play Bigger event. Shout out to Raquel and a lot of people from the Bay Area. And I thought you were too. And I'm here. I'm in Goodyear. I'm like, what? I'm in Gilbert. Like, you got to come over. Let's do this podcast thing. Yeah. And you're here, and it's funny because I was messaging you, and I was thinking that you already had the wedding, but that was a bachelor's party. And so you're like, oh no, it's 23 days. I saw on your story. So it's getting close, man.
It's we've been engaged since August of 21.
Okay.
So, 18 months or something.
Congrats, dude. How'd you meet?
Match.com.
Really? It works.
It did work.
Wow.
Dude,
okay.
We're going to get married, and we're going to send them our story and pay me.
I love it. Is that a thing?
I have no idea.
They should have that.
I think it would be exciting to actually like showcase the story, the journey. We went through everything, and we were both kind of at that point in our lives where it was like, hey, it's just gonna be me. Yeah. And someone's gonna be the right person for that.
I love that. Because I didn't even know. So you were already married before, and now you're, things don't always work out, and now you're going to tie the knot again. Does it seem different? Does it feel different? Like
100%.
Nice.
Yeah, I got married at 23, so divorced at 26. And the reason, in my opinion, a lot of it didn't work out is just a growth process. Some people are willing to grow and adapt and get to that next thought level. Some people aren't. And so we just, we grew different places, and it's all good. But I look back now and I'm like, honestly, if I hadn't gone through that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been the man I'm supposed to be for Lauren.
Oh, I like that.
So you go through that, but Lauren and I have been together for 4.5 years. And it's been amazing. Just like learning, growing together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was the one that really wanted to be out here in Arizona.
Yeah.
And that has been life-changing for us in more ways than one.
That's awesome. That gets this is the first time on Real Estate First Technology Unleashed we've ever used that. So yeah, gotta have some fun with that. But no, it's so true. At the end of the day, met my wife on Instagram, and she's big in fitness, and she was doing a fitness competition. So I was supporting her. Shout out, honey, and the matcha. She's actually here, but somewhere, but not obviously here. So it's so important because we're on the same page, and we didn't know. You don't know if you don't know if you're on the same page. At first, it could be like, "Oh, you're hot," "Oh, cool," and then especially when you're younger, it's more lust instead of actually love, and you don't know what you're getting into. And I'm very grateful that we're on the same page as well, because it's so easy. I feel like, and if you agree, anyone listening, give us some feedback here, that you could be with someone that maybe isn't on the same trajectory or isn't pushing themselves or working on self-development as much as maybe you are. And then it's just almost like this kind of like, hey,
friction.
Yes.
It wasn't, and not saying that it's easy at either time, right?
Yeah.
Because, we put in ridiculous amounts of hours, and Lauren's in brand marketing for
is she?
In the wine industry.
Oh, nice.
And so she, she's genius when it comes to that stuff.
Okay.
So she's been helpful in a lot of building the brand over the last few years and kind of getting some pieces together. And but it's just doing it the right way. I think in the level of communication that you have with your spouse is going to depict everything of what that's going to be in the future.
I love that, man. That's super cool. So did she like wine? Is that her thing, or?
Oh yeah.
She's
pretty much a sommelier at this point. Wine is her
dude
in her blood.
Our wives need to get together, because she's like the sommelier for tea, and then the sommelier for wine. That could be a good match.
And Lauren loves tea.
Interesting.
She's very picky with certain types of teas. I couldn't tell you, but there's a blend that they get from a coffee spot or a tea spot up in NorCal.
Okay.
Her and her mom get the same tea.
Interesting.
So that's just one there. So, but she loves that stuff. But she's a little bit more. She's more behind the scenes.
Okay.
Like, she'll go to events. She'll be with people. She's excited, but like that takes away from her cup. Or someone I'm like that fills my cup. So, which is good, I think, in some mixed match.
You're like the yin to her yang.
And vice versa. Yeah.
I like that.
She keeps me grounded. I'll fly away. Little balloon.
It's like, whoa, come back. No, same thing for me as well. My wife definitely keeps me grounded. She's definitely a little bit more the voice of reason, and I can easily the same. And for me, I have a book, and it's like I believe it's called Human Design, and it talks about like various different people and who you are and what makes sense for you. And for me, it's like I'm a opportunist hermit. So I like to be here at home in my lair here. Welcome to my lair. And then when I do go out, it's a lot of fun. I love to network. I love to meet people and do all the things. That I'm like kind of like a ping pong ball, like to just jump all around, do all the things. And we actually now have a vlog coming from the event, and we also have, I think, like close to 30 videos we did, short form content. Interviewing like Loida. Shout out Loida. She was in the podcast. YouTube. Check out her episode. Steve, he was awesome as well. The rapping realtor. So we got a little short with him. And it's cool just to be able to, I love maximizing events. They're so awesome.
Yep. 100%. And then you're referencing back to the Play Bigger event, which was, like I said, in our backyard. There was a ton of people that were from Northern California. So like the Fast team, shout out to Kenny and Elias. They are building just a phenomenal machine out there.
Yeah.
But it's like this operation that has now gone from just kind of any and all agents to very honed in, sophisticated, but it's also very high touch.
Yeah.
Very like relationship. The people are super important, who they're working with, and just kind of everything. So I love that. And that's it, man. It's just like association with those people. Actually, a really good friend of mine asked me, he's like, hey, do you think sometimes when you're building your brand or your personal brand that you will sometimes, like other people that maybe have been in the journey but previously with you, either might feel left behind or is when I said yes, but it's not because I don't appreciate who those people were or who they are. It's just they're not part of this chapter right now.
Yep.
And so it's not like a personal thing for a lot of people. Like I never intentionally like, screw you, it didn't help me or whatever. Yeah. It's like, hey, how do we help everyone? But sometimes people gave you the leg up. They helped you get to the next place, the next relationship. Like that Ed Milet quote of you're one relationship and one like conversation away from changing your life. I 1000% believe that. I
love that. It's so true. And it's just like going back to your first marriage. It's like if you're not pushing yourself and moving forward, then you're moving backwards. And so you have to think to yourself, what am I committed to? Where am I going? And it's interesting. I was just watching a podcast with Dr. Joe Dispenza. Yeah. And he's a phenomenal doctor in human psychology, and he talks a lot about how the self-talk and what you're saying to yourself, and how we always repeat things, and those things you could be repeating is good or bad. And so you are moving forward, and you're breaking through barriers, and you see where you want to go, and you're getting there, and other people are kind of like, well, I have kids, or I have this and I have that. And you're like, that's totally cool. Like, do you, I'm going to do me. And if we don't see each other as much or whatever the case may be, there's something personal. I mean, what do they say? Like, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. I'm still trying to figure out who those are, but but at the end of the day, it's so true because, your 5 create your tribe. I was just, showing Bryce over here, I have a Monopoly piece that says if your circle doesn't inspire you, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. And it's like a Monopoly. It's like the Monopoly man coming out of the cage and flying away. We'll have to pop that on the screen or something. So yeah, I love that, man. Absolutely love that. So you have that's happened to you with a few people, and do they say something to you or reach out to you or?
I think it's actually recent that thought process kind of came up, to be honest. Okay. One of my best friends we were kind of talking about some of this because he's not on social. Okay. He doesn't do really anything. He's got, maybe LinkedIn. That's about it. Yeah. And so we were talking about that from just some of the people in our past, because we have very similar, maybe 7 or 8 years. And, he's, executive at a bank, a credit union. And so we kind of started as like managers and worked that way up. So, and kind of seeing where he's at, but it's the people themselves. I don't think most people are going to bring that up. They're not going to like come to you and be like, hey man, I feel like you left me in the dust. Yeah. And I don't think that's really, hopefully the feeling for anybody. If you're associated with someone that's trying to do something great. And a lot of people, what I've realized is it's people see where you're at now. They don't know where you've come from. Yeah. And I think that's a big part of what we have to do with like our brands and our messaging and all this stuff. And I was just talking to Buck Wise actually about this. Yeah. You guys know Buck Wise. Shout out. And that's one of those things where it's like, we're talking about some branding stuff that he's helping me with. I'm like, it's really taking the true passion of what I want to help people accomplish, but then also show them like, where did you come from? I mean, at 19, I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18 for no reason other than I wanted to figure it out. Right. I was like, I'm going to go do it. I'm 31. I'll be 32 in September. I was like, hey, let's just figure this out. Yeah. So, I mean, did really well in sales for a minute, then didn't work for 6+ months. So there was a point in time when I was actually literally sleeping in my car for 2 months and showering in my office because I was in between places and I was not going to I wasn't going to go ask for help. Yeah. And so most people don't know about that, but those moments that you look back on are part of that drive of like why you will always be running from something, because you never want to feel that again, but you're always running towards something. So, I mean, it's going through that, maybe a car, starting as a teller and moving my way up through corporate management, going through a divorce, and then having those conversations after like the separation of, I remember walking in the office one day and was just like, I just started crying my eyes out. Like I was a VP of business banking at the time for Bank of America in San Jose. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So I took 4 or 5 months off, just focused on myself, my health, my fitness, everything. And decided, hey, no, I'm gonna get back into the real estate space. Wow. I always loved it. I always thought it was a great place. I was studying my real estate license. And one of the people were referencing that may have the feeling that they're not involved in the chapter right now. Yeah. Was the reason I got back into the space. Wow. Which is the reason that I have anything I have now from a financial perspective and knowledge and so forth. So it's like, you just look at the compound pieces, like look where people have been. right?
Yeah.
Ed Milet had an alcoholic father. He didn't get raised right. Like, he should by no means be where he's at.
Correct.
But he took circumstances, and when you think it's the thing that disqualifies you, it's probably the thing that actually qualifies you the most. And that's what's super exciting when you like talk about branding and building something that's going to genuinely impact thousands of lives.
And it keeps you humbled. I mean, at the end of the day, what you
Yeah.
went through helped you become who you are today. And without those things, you wouldn't be as humbled. You wouldn't be as loving, caring.
Yeah.
Speaking of unleashed, I appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome as we go deeper in this process. And I am on the same page. I mean, from food stamps and then house hacking and living in an apartment that I had with my ex-girlfriend, it didn't work out. She moved out and I'm like, okay, how do I make this work? Let's get a roommate and supplement the income. And then let's turn my bedroom into an office and just sleep on a futon and make it happen, you know? So I commend you for that. That's awesome. You know, and I remember downturn in the market 2018, I had a 07 750 Gixxer, I had a 06 Dodge Charger, and living with my girlfriend and thought I was on top of the world. And then really quickly found out that I was just like, whoa, I'm an asshole. I'm taking her for granted. Now she's leaving me. The market is going to shit. And I believe I was like selling cars. And so I had to consign the Dodge Charger and sell that. And I got that from a settlement and I should have never bought that. And I did. And then after that, I basically drove a street bike and rain or shine, grocery shopping, backpack, and a side bag on my side and did what I have to do because I didn't want to drive, you know, a car that I didn't think had status or whatever, living in Pleasanton, Livermore, Dublin, shout out Bay Area of California. There's like that stigma and I worked from the bottom, here we are, but that's awesome that you did that and you kept moving forward. You had that emotional moment and even having that title of like, oh, VP, branch manager, or whatever the case may be, like that means nothing behind the scenes.
Titles are useless.
Useless.
I don't like, you call me a janitor if I make $1 million a year. I don't really care.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's, and you kind of have respect for that too. Like you've gone through that ups and downs and ebbs and flows. But there's always been that desire to kind of, like you said, unleash, right? To just, to never settle, which is a pro and a con. I mean, it means that I'm relentless on working. One of my best friends again, he was like, dude, you're top 3 people on this planet I know. Like you put your head to something, you're going to figure out how to make it happen.
Let's go.
Like, you know, and I think but that to me, that's a God-given gift. Like I didn't create that. That was just in me and it's just slowly coming to fruition. And it's just how fast, right? Like, if I look at it, you go, all of the shit that you're going to go through in life. Yeah. Everyone has it. But one of the things that I think about, and this is again, another Ed thing, by the way, Ed is like my guy. Like I study him. I want to understand him, business, faith, finances, family. Like he has a lot of what I admire.
I love that.
And so, you know, I think it's when we pass and you go to heaven, you go to the next place, like how close could you get to the person that you're supposed to be?
Oh, I love that.
And so if you think about that, it's like, what is your impact? What's everything going on? So that's been a crucial part of like learning, understanding. It's truly, how do we get to that? How do we get to be that person? How can we create impact, right? I mean, you know, provide resource for somebody else or whatever it looks like. So the more and more I go through that's the type of stuff that really, really drives me.
I love that. Because we're on Unleashed, we can do what the fuck we want. So we're going live. We're on IG Live now. So what's up, everyone? We're live with the man, Bryce. Got to check him out. I'm going to tag him down below. And everyone who's watching now, all the links will be down below for you so they can go ahead and check that out as well. But I love that. Lightning Giant, by the way. So I love that. That's awesome. And I'm glad that those things helped you become who you are today. And at the end of the day, now you are going to be this walking, talking, inspirational person for someone who's going to be going through something now, who's either now tuning into the live or watching the complete episode. So if you're watching our live, you need to go and watch the complete episode, and it'll be out on a Friday, 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, to get the whole story. And that's awesome. And I feel like there is no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. You know, Raquel, the Play Bigger event, us meeting, now us being here, us having similar stories is awesome, because now we can go in and we can serve and support and help and do so much more as a group, as a collective, than we can on our own. It doesn't matter, if it's Liftoff, or Real Estate First Technology, or mortgage company, this or that, or whatever brand it is. It doesn't matter. Yeah. What matters is how do we come together as a community and serving and supporting and helping one another, because there's so much more to do to help so many people out there that are maybe sleeping in their car right now.
100%, man. I think it's like your circumstances that you're in right now don't define who you are going to be.
No.
And so I think if someone is going through something or struggling, or you're a young entrepreneur and you're trying to figure it out, I mean, it's been in my blood to just not have a boss. Right?
I love that.
And I think that's becoming more and more, is that people want additional streams of income. They want ways to kind of create their own time back. And so that's one of the things that we really teach. I mean, sure, run the mortgage team, that's part of it.
Yeah.
But money, like that's the platform that
I'm doing too many things at once. All right, we're back now. Unleashed, here we go. All right, y'all didn't know, but we I guess the internet is here we go. All right, I see you, go back up. All right, cool. Yeah, it is what it is, but we're gonna keep rolling. Keep going.
But so that's just one of the things that we do too, right? So if we can teach people how to create additional streams of income. We can teach them how to protect their money, right? The passion, the mission really is, how do we help people create and protect generational wealth in real estate and financial education?
Wow.
And we don't teach any of this in school. Like,
we
don't teach any of this to anybody. It's like, it's here, run with this, run with your 401k, run with this information, just do what everyone tells you to do. But I won't get into a lot of that today, but it's like, you really look at a lot of the financial system that we have now, it's not designed for people to win. So we have to change that. And all it is information.
Yes.
And then implementation of that. So that's been the biggest platform. That's the education piece. That's the part of how do we show this and teach people? Because if you can fix that, if you can solve that, you can solve your time issue.
Yes.
Well, you can solve your relationship issues. You can solve your not being there for your kid issues.
Yeah.
You can solve so much if we solve the information that everyone is getting. And unfortunately, I think, in my opinion, it revolves around money. So money is the tool.
Yep.
The business is leadership development.
Love it.
And so we teach people, as I'm learning, as I'm being mentored, as I'm being coached. I've been on coaching calls with Ed Milet. I've been on coaching calls with tons of people. Shout out to anyone that sees this that is a coach, because what you do in impact is huge. And so now that I'm in that position to help people, team lead, all this stuff, help people coach, it's you got to take that super serious.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like a lot of people too have to have that paradigm shift, that catalyst to understand, like, you don't need to work a 9 to 5. You don't need to trade your time for a paycheck that then just goes into paying your bills. And then we get caught up in, there's so many different programs right now that give you the opportunity to buy something now that maybe you can't afford, to go into a payment type plan in order to pay it off. And then that whole thought process is actually backwards, when we really need to, and when I'm working on personally, and I do have 7 streams of revenue, and even after that financial freedom and even having control of my schedule, when you do get to that next level, you still have to think to yourself, like, okay, you have to remind yourself to have time for your kids, remind yourself to take time for your wife. You have to go on mommy daddy dates. You have to go on, a daughter or a son date. Like, moms, take your sons out on a date, or vice versa. Dads, I take my daughter out on a date and we have fun and we go do things. And so it's a never ending real process. But I feel like as soon as you start seeing that light, and then it's just like, oh my God, there's this possibility. And the more that you could be self-aware, then it's like, oh my God. And I feel like a lot of times right now, it's like what you're talking about, just the financial piece of like what other options are out there. And I only thought of you as like, okay, you're in the lending space now. Shout out, Arjun Mortgage. Arjun's a friend of mine, and we just sent a message and sent him that via Instagram. Right before we got on, he replied back. But no, you do a lot more with the infinite banking space and also alternative ways to be able to bring cash flow in. Yep. As I was talking about Airbnb, house hacking, like a lot of people don't even want people in their house. I'm like, hey, we rent a room. Who cares? Like we have an Airbnb upstairs. Who cares? Like, it's like the house is big enough. We love people. We love to host, whatever, So I love that. What got you into that space, wanting to do more with that? And do you feel like that will take precedence over the mortgage side, or you think it's all collectively going to grow with each other?
Good question, man. I actually think it all goes hand in hand. Okay. So how I got into this space actually a couple years ago, when the pandemic hit, obviously was still in mortgage. We were working from home. So we're all working from home, and I had some friends that are in, kind of whatever, the financial space. Yeah. And so there's different licenses and stuff you can get. And so I just started to learn information, and I was like, hey, I'd like to maybe help people with this at some point. So my family went through everything, the way that we structure our finances. And by the way, like before I get too deep into it, I've made every fucking mistake possible when it comes to money. Every single one. Like I've racked up the credit cards. I've not saved when I've made a few $100,000 a year. Like I've done everything that was like, oh, you're not supposed to. So I learned the hard way. Yeah. And so then I was like, you know what? I need to associate, be mentored and coached by the people that are doing it and have the lifestyle that I want. So, some of the people that I'm mentored by might have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year passive incomes. Wow. From financial services. So it's like, okay, how do I learn from you? And then you start to get into, you're like, sure, that's the tool, but now it's the actual information, the education. So we teach people about the 3 rules of money. So like when we do a pre-approval, which is, hey, here's your largest asset, here's your largest liability. What happens if the day you close, the day after you die, what happens to your family? We need to protect it. We help set them up with estate planning. We help set them up if, life insurance is important, if protecting their capital out of the market and index accounts is important, right? Yeah. So like we just get into more holistic, true strategy. And so it's being true service oriented within the space. So we do a pre-approval. It's let's talk to you, talk about your money, talk about finances. Hey, has anyone taught you about the 3 rules of money? 99% of people say no. And we just go through that. Hey, this is it. So the reason we're showing you this is because when we look at how we help set up your loan, how we help structure your mortgage payment, how we help structure your opportunity, it's all based on a very holistic viewpoint. And it's not just here's a mortgage, here's a payment, here's interesting, right? Okay. So it's when you think about it, it's all one. And so actually Arjun is all about like the financial education. We work with a lot of financial advisors too. That's my next question. Yeah. So Arjun is all about financial education, being more of a financial advocate. And so mortgage is the tool and it's the big asset. We run a team. But again, that's like when we're building our team right now, it's true financial advocates that they know certain levels of information about money, how it works, and how people might need to understand it. Because I can't hand somebody a $500,000 house mortgage payment and then not give them an opportunity to protect their family if life happens. Yeah. So I don't know if precedence over. We're a Morris team, the Lenny Giant, that's kind of the brand. Yeah. But I think it was like, how do we just add more tools to the tool belt to facilitate within this space that we want to master? I love that. It's more of a comprehensive approach. So you have a lot of lenders out there that just does the lending, but they don't think about the other side of the coin, which could be protecting assets and what have you. My wife actually and I are going through that currently right now, because even though my wife's twin sister is the godmother and would be the one taking our daughter and all the things, like we need to have that not just in writing, but done properly through the state. Correct. So that way it doesn't go into probate, because even if we've learned like you could write something, get it notarized, whatever, but it does not matter. And so also life insurance. And so like my daughter has life insurance. When she turns 18, she can start a business, do whatever she wants. And we're National Life Group, and I have term, and then my wife, if something happens to her and she's incapacitated or whatever the case may be, she can draw and get that money. So you're speaking sweet
Sweet loves my ears here. So I love that. It's so smart, you know, and I love like dividend paying stocks. How do you make money on a quarterly basis off dividend paying stocks? Like how do you, you know, like we've invested, I think it was like $200 in Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, $200 in Dogecoin right before it went up to 70 cents.
Yeah.
And we made like 20 grand off $200. You know, so it's like, then what do you do with that? And then, you know, for me, it's like, all right, the market kind of sucks right now. So I went and took the money out of the market, put it into a car, but that's a whole other conversation.
Which is a sick ass car. Well, it's you know, I think one of the biggest things too is like from a strategy is a lot of the stuff we talk about is more tax advantage strategies too, right? So if we really think about it, really get into it deep, is taxes are the most expensive thing on the planet. For us, right?
Yeah,
tax on your income, tax on your gains if you grow money, tax if you put gas, tax for this. So there's a way, and if your biggest wealth building tool and kind of financial strategist growth is your income, right? Is your earned income. How do you take that earned income? And Candy Valentino has a book, The Wealth Habits. Shout out to Candy. Actually, we're just messaging on Instagram the other day. She's fired.
We got to get her on the podcast.
Dude, so good, man. Talked about that too. I shot my shot. I didn't get a response on that one, but yeah.
You never know. You never know. Just stay consistent.
It's good, man. You can't ask that. So, but wealth habits and the way she structures things and creating this stuff. So it's, you know, I mean, candidly, I would say none of my family's financial plan is in the traditional space anymore.
Okay.
It's all kind of in these concepts, right? So infinite banking, cash value life insurance, the growth models. You're talking about, you know, cash being able to pull out of capacity. So you got living benefits. So we're really just structuring that. But again, it's not the tool to sell anyone. It's one, help you protect it.
Yeah.
The biggest way is like, you know, if you have, say, for example, like cash value anyways, it's, you know, could be a way, or living benefits, could be mortgage insurance, right? You can't work for a year because you get hit by a bus, replace it. We had a client, actually, story was young guy, 30 years old, no reason to have life insurance or anything like that.
Yeah.
Statistic, right? Wouldn't say anything. Went through our financial review that we do, full structure to it, matches up to everything. Gets a policy, goes in place. 6 months later, diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
30, no history in his family of it all.
Interesting.
And so the way, because it was all structured properly, he retired his sister to take care of him. They gave him 11 months to live.
Wow.
He paid off all his family's debt, paid off the mortgage, everything. And so a lot of times it's not the sickness or the situation of this thing that happens to you that can like kill you or take it further down the line.
Yeah.
It's the stress of life not being able to be handled. And so, long story, the guy actually recovered.
Wow.
It's about 4 years clean of being that. He started a business, started a ministry, bought a house, everything, all because he removed the stress from his family in a situation when, you know, if he had been contributing the same amount of money to a 401k, he'd had about 12 grand. And he had about $700,000 to take care of his family tax-free.
Huge. And talk about having a motivational moment to be able to feel better, get better, because if you financially aren't where you need to be and you're stressed out and then you're diagnosed with cancer, how are you supposed to keep it together? And that's more of a reactionary thing instead of being a proactionary thing. And thank God he was proactionary with his financial situation that gave him probably even more motivation to then to get past all this and to enjoy the fact that he was proactive in that manner. And I think that's a great thing to bring up to anyone who's viewing and listening. We're live right now. Welcome, Real Estate First Technology. And for all the guests that are listening right now, if you're stressed out or financially you're feeling like a burden over your shoulders and you have a lot of debt and you're just not in a place where you want to be, you're supposed to be there. And hopefully this is your moment that you can see that and be like, okay, I'm going to make a change. Like after listening to the podcast and hearing that I'm going to do something differently, whether it's debt consolidation, pulling out a HELOC so you don't mess with your current rate in your home if you own a home, taking on a second job, changing your behaviors and your habits and getting out of buying things as a temporary endorphin release and doing something for the long term and being smart about it. And so it was funny, my mom, and quick segue, but I have to. My mom was like, do you always think like that? It's like a financial kind of, how are you going to get ahead or whatever. And like, I told her, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get this GTR, and I got the cheapest one in the nation, and it's probably worth 86,000. And the guy wanted 84, and I got him down to 80. He wanted 74. I got him down to 72, and then I only owe 65. And after I'm done, it'd be worth 90 grand. She's like, do you always think like that? I'm like, yeah, why not? I mean, the market sucks right now. I could go enjoy the fruits of my labor and have something to share with other people. By the way, after this podcast, we're going for a ride. And that's part of the show. So especially when you come in, you're going to unleash, let's go. Let's get those endorphins released with a quick little rush. But yeah, so I think that like whoever's listening to think to themselves, like, why are you buying what you're buying? Does it make sense? Is it just an emotional impulse, or is it something that's actually going to be beneficial to yourself, your family, or whatever the case may be, and just be smarter about what they're doing? And it sounds like if they need any help or they want to talk to someone, you potentially could be that.
100%. And I think it's one of those things, like I said, I mean, I made at the beginning, right? I made all the mistakes, and it really became, I would say, honestly, it was about 9 months ago. Like you said, market was shifting. We were going from closing 8 to 10 deals a month on our team to 2 to 3 and working twice as hard. And it was like, what's happening? And there was a moment of like, why am I doing this? Why am I in this space? And we all go through this moments of doubt, like no questions, of course, whatsoever, right? And I think, actually, Harmosi's wife, I watched this reel, she said it, she's like, it doesn't go away. Like, even if you're making $1 million, 2, 3, 5, 10 million a month, like whatever your dream number is, it doesn't go away. It just changes. No. And so I reached out to a mentor of mine, has a lifestyle I want, has everything that, has all his time if he wants to. And I was like, hey man, like I need to make a change, but I never want to make a change that just is purely just for me. And like, what change can I make that could motivate somebody else, that could give them information? And so I feel like that's been one of the big missions is been put in place. How do we help people? Again, finance being the platform, education being it, leadership development, and how do we get people to that next level? So always open to have conversations. And if it's something that even I don't know, then we connect with people that are way, more intelligent in some of this stuff as well. But I love that. I was like, hey, I need to make a change for myself, my family, and for my business. So we just dived in. Thank you. Of course. We dived in heavy, deep, a lot of training, a lot of coaching, a lot of open to mentorship and development. And we just, started to put together something pretty big, pretty special.
Wow. That's huge. I love that. And just behind the scenes, I'm adjusting this mic now. I can figure out, talk on the side. Sounds better. So it's funny that you say that, because I just was talking to Team BC and Brian. That's Loida, who was on stage, who's on our podcast, Play Bigger on stage is what I'm talking about. Right. And so I got to be on his podcast, and he talked about how, like you said, something about mentorship and coaching and what have you. And some people, and you might be listening to this right now, and you might not be as open to taking advice from somebody because of whatever reason. Or I was listening to a podcast this morning with Alex Hormozi and also Dean Grazierosi, and he was also talking about the fact that people will see coaching but think that there's some special snowflake, and they just want to find any type of like pitfall or hole or something that they feel like Alex didn't notice or whatever. And it's just like, okay, well, I asked you 7 things. You're making $100 million now. I think it was like a month, something crazy. This is a huge business, and the guys wanted to get to the next level. And then he's like, well, I asked you these 7 things, and you said out all these 7 things, none of those things have worked. Well, it sounds like you're not going to move forward, and that's it. You're done. You're going to fail. And that's just, no, wait. There's this, that, and the other thing. So, if you're out there, getting a coach, getting a mentor is not a bad thing. I mean, one thing that I do is a lot of podcasts, a lot of books, a lot of events. Though that's still coaching, it might not be as direct or in your face.
Association.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely coaching is good, and also find the right coach. I remember I had a coach that took a company, Digital Insight Public, in '94, cashed out for $4 million, and he helped me for 2.5 years, starting off with Liftoff. Before it was personal assistance, and then it was support RE, and then it ended up being Liftoff agent. And he helped me out with like my pitch, my delivery, and all the things. But I need to find out where the relationship started and stopped, and what was his intention. Because at the end of the day, he was money, money, money. And I didn't really care so much about that. I cared more about like legacy, supporting, serving, helping. And he just wanted to leverage like the business model and my energy, and just like wanted to run with it on his own. And I was going to basically just watch the process and kind of be his puppet. And I'm like, nah, I'm cool with that. I don't want that.
And I think it's, I mean, in that case, like, you can be associated with a lot of people and had, different mentors, different opportunities. But I think it's also being really intentional about like who you're associating with, who you're having connections with, but also stepping out. Like, I mean, we like you said, we work from home. Like, we don't have an office right now. We have an announcement video coming out, but we launched our own branch, our own team in the mortgage space. And so like, cool, well, no point in having space right now. So work from home. So like yesterday, like Eli was out at my house, we're doing content, we're in the community. But like, you're like, cool. All right. It was a trial for this content guy. Liked him, really appreciated him. Actually, Arjun hooked him up again.
That's good.
And it's like, hey, this is someone good. Like, we should leverage it. So if like, you can piece together the things that you want. And if people are like, well, maybe I have started and I don't know who to talk to, or maybe you haven't started. It's, dude, honestly, just start with podcasts, start with, things that come in. Like, I mean, every day, at least 1 or 2 podcasts I'll listen to, because it's just, you're training your subconscious. So there's this book called The Ant and the Elephant. I don't know if you've ever read this one.
No.
So it talks about the conscious and the subconscious mind and the difference. And the difference is the equivalent of an ant versus an elephant. And so it talks about how the conscious mind actually fires off at a couple thousand neurons, and it just kind of, that's how it operates. But the subconscious mind operates on 4 billion neurons. So it's saying that even though, like, when you think about it, like, I can't stand listening or watching commercials because it's subconscious training. I'm not going to pay attention to that. But if it's on in the background, or I'm listening to it, or I hear it, you're training something that you don't realize you're training. So it's being very like in tune with those conscious mind. Now, I've been in kind of personal development, leadership, like this type of reading books and things like that since I was 19. So this is kind of all I know. I don't know how else to learn. But I didn't go to college. Like, I mean, my parents were like, hey, we'll help you pay for half of your community college. I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I went to 2 semesters, Cabrillo College, shout out to Cabrillo. But it was like, no. I don't, the time I had a mentor, I was actually, my first sales job, my first real true job outside of like, Nob Hill and the grocery stores was, I was at Cutco. So I did Cutco knives and sold knives and kitchenware and moved my way up there. And the first person who was making tons of money was like, hey, I'll teach you all these different things. I remember asking the business professor at the college, and I was like, hey, what business, like, how did you implement all this? Like, when have you built something? What have you built? And it was, I just teach. I was like, I'm going to learn from somebody on business who has 0 business experience. Like, that's like you trying to go to a dentist and being like, I watched YouTube. Like, you're not going to trust that person with an impact. So I decided and went and just was like, I'm going to go learn from applicable knowledge. And it was just always like, figure it out, how to make it happen. And
I love that.
Not be scared to ask questions.
Yeah. It's like going to get a trainer and the trainer doesn't work out. And you're like, well, 100%. That's where I feel like school isn't always for everybody, and school is what it is. And it has a purpose for anyone that is very deliberate to what they want to do. And school is going to be maybe a gate or road they have to get through, or whatever the case may be. That could be something they have to do to get to that next place, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I don't feel like a lot of the business professors and the ones that are in that space really run successful businesses. Now, I get it, they could read books and have podcasts and have mentors and all the things. And, even if I went to school for business, which I didn't, I could have learned KPIs and SOPs and what those meant, income producing activities, and watching the P&L and all cash flow and all those type of things. I could have done a better job faster. Now, my VP, Dan Gandy, shout out, co-host, Real Estate First Technology. He's going to be on the online version, not the in-person, which we talked a little bit about. He's the one that was big on that. He was big on spreadsheets and P&L, and I learned from him, right? Yep. And so it was like learn by trial and error. And that's why I think that if anyone who's listening, who's on the fence post, who's like, do I want to coach or do I not want to coach? First and foremost, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to learn and be coachable? And then also you have to ask yourself, how fast do you want to get where you want to go? Do you want to have it within 2 to 5 years, or do you want to have it within 5 to 10 years? Because you could be like Colonel Sanders, that took forever to get to where he got to
71, right?
71 before he made it, which is totally fine. And at the end of the day, I think that what I've learned, and it's been great for me, is that I'm glad that it took the time that it took, because I wouldn't be ready for the success that I'm having now in my 20s. And now being a father and being a husband, and having that foundation, and then like now sharing the passions that I had in my 20s with cars and all the things that I like now with my family is really cool. And then my daughters helped me put like the logo, like the it was the NLK3 Instagram logo on the window, and she was excited about that. And like sharing these experiences is great. Not raising an entitled child is another conversation, because she's definitely growing up in privilege compared to what my wife and I have seen or done. And then the last thing is that you have to be conscious of what you're watching, what you're listening to. And I literally am on the same page with you, because now you go to the gas station and you're getting gas. And they're feeding you fucking garbage. And I'm like, dude, I don't want this shit. You're at you're at the gym, you're on the treadmill or elliptical, or fucking TV turns on, garbage. Like they just shove it down your throat. And that's the thing. Like if you're not intentional and you don't have I have a board right here with all the goals and everything that we want to do. And I just updated, we're at like a 408,000 for the year, and the goal is 2 million. And so it's right there in front of my face. And if I was to not know specifically what I want, like get up, I do the red light therapy, and I do my stretching, and during the red light therapy, I do Wim Hof controlled breathing, and I practice specifically what I want. And I think to myself, and I go over it. And yesterday I had a moment where I wasn't showing up as the father as I should be. And so I took a moment this morning to be like, all right, how am I showing up? And then to keep myself accountable, I put myself online. And then I got feedback. You saw that, right? Talking about how could I show up, or how could you be showing up differently for your family or your friends or your loved ones or your colleagues, or spiritually for God and whatever you believe in. And so taking that mental checklist and be like, all right, what am I watching? What am I getting into? Where am I going? And I don't think enough people that are listening to this podcast right now are really deliberate about what they want, where they're going, why they're going there. And it doesn't matter how you get there, or it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there. All you need to know is that you're going to get there. And eventually when you get there, it's like, Lord, universe, God, whatever you want to say, you will get that when you're ready for it.
Yeah. And I think it's, it's funny to think about, because like, could you be maybe that one person for your family, which is literally what you and your wife are. Right? It's what I am and will be for my family. And it's not like, my parents, I was raised by my great aunt and uncle, the ones that raised me, and great, phenomenal people. Great family of faith, culture. I grew up in the church, played youth group, all that stuff.
Love it.
But there was always something that I was just like, you got to go for the next thing. And so could you be the one for your family? Could you be the one that changes the trajectory? Could you be the one that's not relying on the 9 to 5? And maybe it's, I don't want to be a business owner, or some people want to do that, but it's, could you be the person who changes your kid's life, or your grandkids' lives? Or, it's just, if you really think about it, it's like we're on this earth for just a small snapshot. Small snapshot. Now, again, whatever you believe, that's okay. I'm a Christian. My faith is in Jesus. Like, that's my faith. I know where I want to go, what I'm supposed to be doing.
Amen.
And that is a big driving factor. I'm not out there like shoving it up your throat, but I do my devotions. I do my stuff. I do my breathing. Like, my pool's no longer really a cold plunge right now, but I love that. So it's like, do stuff that's uncomfortable every single day. So that way it becomes comfortable, because if you do one or two things that are uncomfortable, most people aren't.
Yeah.
And so it's just, how do you help people get to the next level? And I love those conversations when you're like meeting someone that's either way ahead of where you are, where you're at, or like kind of like this, right? Like I didn't have any idea what the conversation. Like, that's the best part about some of these podcasts. You don't know what the conversation's going to be. And so we just unleash it, right? And so that's a big piece for me. And that was one thing I was kind of mentioning that my best friend and I were talking about is like, how do you share that story? He's like, I know why you want to provide and help other people have opportunities, because you had to go find those opportunities for yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can just put a platform or create a brand or a sphere of influence, we're here to help you buy a house, talk about money and finances, but it really comes down to the relationships of the people you associate with, network with, and at this point in time, like, it's just make the decisions that you can do something different. And that doesn't mean you have to like change every little thing about what you're doing now, as it's piece by piece by piece by piece.
Yep.
Like you said, I mean, you can go from living in your car to owning a fully remodeled house that you guys are fully custom and pieces you want, and house hacking it, doing this, but it's knowing, okay, what is the end goal, kind of in mind. But the guy that loves walking will go further than the person who loves the destination. So, I mean, fall in love with the process of developing and becoming a better person, that 1% every day. And I don't do it, I post a lot of my stories. That's kind of where it's like, you really create a lot of the relationships with people on social. But so many times I've gotten messages like, hey man, I do this now because I saw that you're doing it and it just remotivated me. Or I cold plunge now when it's 35 degrees outside because I saw you're doing it and I wanted to get uncomfortable. Or I actually restarted reading, I started my faith journey again because I saw that you were a part of it and I look up to you, or whatever it is. And I'm just like, man, I'm humbled by that. And so it's like, can you be better for somebody else? And if you think of it that way, in my opinion, then you're always going to be making an impact.
And speaking of challenge, I mean, I felt the pressure. You came in, right? Like the in-person podcast, we've really done a handful, right? And we're doing more now and ramping it up. And then the mic had freaking reverb. And then I'm like, all right, like, okay, are you set up? Okay. And then the internet was having issues. And now we're like 51 minutes in and it's working okay. So thank God we're good. And that's a part of the development as I put pressure on myself to do those things, to keep moving forward. And everything that you said basically is legacy. It's legacy. It's those relationships and those things that you've done for other people that they will always remember and be like, that guy, that girl, that person, they, them, whatever you believe and whoever you are, is the difference. And I'm definitely, my wife and I are the first in our family to have or do anything that we're doing. So it's very humbling. And half the stuff I'm like doing or telling my parents or telling my mom, and then I had a tough conversation with her, and then she just got baptized, and she's not exactly where she deserves to be. I feel like she deserves more. And I had a tough conversation with her, and then she got baptized, and like now she's putting herself outside her comfort zone. She'll appear next month by herself for once and doing things for her, and not my brother, not my sister, not my stepfather, and all the things that she always does for everybody else. So if you're someone out there always doing things for yourself, like, or for other people, think about yourself first and put yourself first and make sure you're a good foundation and you're taking care of you. And then you can then take care of others and do so much more and get yourself out there. So as we get closer to ramping up our show for today, and we're definitely gonna have to get you back on, what are some closing thoughts for people that are either watching on YouTube? If you don't know, this is on YouTube and of course on every streaming platform, or listening in. What are some closing thoughts for anyone who's watching, listening to the competitive business or their life today?
No, man, I appreciate having me on today.
Of course, dude.
It's always good. I love having these kind of conversations, just letting it go. And honestly, I mean, some of it I've never even said on anything outside of like conversations. So it's good to also just put that out there, put your energy, who you are. I would say a couple of years ago that if I had a closing comment for people that are watching and listening, and I'm still learning this, but a couple events and meetings and conversations is really at the end of the day, is just be you. Like genuinely be who you are. Is that someone that wants to do something bigger, someone that wants to have a different conversation? Are you trying to get to that next level? Like whatever it is that is on your heart to go do, to be better, to create impact, then just be you in that whole journey.
Wow.
It's the most important part.
I love that. I had to get that bit. So we just got that real quick for the gram, for the stories as we build more relationships. And I'm super grateful that this was a platform and an opportunity and a safe space that you felt comfortable coming into. You know, we're in a personal home here. Come to my home and try my wife's matcha and just be open and honest and put things out there, where that's what I'm challenging myself to do as well, is to be more open, be more real, just be more like, hey, this is who I am, take it or leave it, because your vibe creates your tribe. And going deeper in that process of just being 100% real, authentic, loving, caring, and me.
That's it.
Appreciate you, bro. We're gonna have to have you on again.
Sure,
we talked about so many different things, and if there's anything we touched on, and we would love feedback, let us know what you would like to hear from Bryce. So we can go ahead and put that in the comments down below, and we will go deeper in that. If it's infinite banking or specific strategies to get yourself out of your current situation, have multiple streams of revenue, or whatever the case may be, we're here to serve. Like, subscribe, notification bell, and give us your feedback so we can go ahead and have more motivation to keep doing what we do here. Real Estate First Technology Now Unleashed. So awesome. Well, we appreciate you, Bryce. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, brother.
Awesome. And we thank you all for viewing, listening, watching, as it is our intention for you to take things from our episode to apply to your business to have more massive success. And we will see you on the next one.